Kmart, I'm starting with you. The Texans have lost Stefon Diggs for this season. So if I said the Texans without Stefon Diggs are what?
Still a playoff contender. Listen, this is a big loss because with Nico Collins down, Stefon Diggs had become their CJ's go-to guy. But this is still a good team. Tank Dell, don't sleep on Tank Dell because last year he was having a breakout year as well. And Joe Mixon, this guy on pace, when he's healthy in the 4 games, he surpassed 100 yards each time when healthy. So Joe Mixon, a big stud. So I'm still high on the Texans.
Let's keep playing fill in the blank. Neek, the Colts benching Anthony Richardson for Joe Flacco is what?
Short-sighted. And, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt is maybe there's something else going on in the building that I don't know about. But based on the film alone and given what we know about Anthony Richardson, he hasn't played badly enough. And I know what the numbers say. But when you watch the games, he hasn't played badly enough to be benched, given the fact that he's a rookie quarterback that we all knew was going to be a project. So hopefully they have a long-term plan for him that involves him coming back and playing football again really soon.
Yeah, trying to win and develop a quarterback at the same time can be hard to do. Hawk, here's one for you. Diontae Johnson makes the Ravens what?
The top offense in the league, okay? They got Lamar Jackson, who I think is the MVP right now. Derrick Henry, by far the best running back in the National Football League. Their offensive line is playing great. They probably have the best tight end unit in the league. The only place that needed an upgrade was wide receiver. They played solid, but not enough for people to feel like, you know what, when they get into a track meet, do they have the horses in the stable to be able to contend? I think Diontae Johnson gives them a much-needed floor lift to really make sure they can react to any situation that this team sees in the playoffs.
I mean, everyone is jumping out of their seats.
Come get it, man. All right?
They're a great offense. I just don't think Diontae Johnson makes them the best offense in the league. I think rather than lifting the floor, I think he solidifies it. He doesn't move their team anywhere. He's a good depth to have if someone gets hurt or if someone gets tired. But I don't think he's the type of player that just.
I have a whole other concern, and it'll be voiced. I'm going to cede my time to the gentleman from the state of Georgia. Jeff, what is our concern about the Ravens' offense with the addition of Diontae Johnson?
Don't lose your identity. 3 wide receivers ain't your identity. Make sure you keep Ricard playing the 2 tight ends being in the game. If Johnson's coming in and you want to take Bateman out, great. Let's do that thing. What you don't want to fall into if you're the Baltimore Ravens is trying to get into track meets. The issue for the Ravens is when they played in the AFC Championship game, they dropped back 82% of the time. Their backs touched it 6 times. You brought Derrick Henry in for a certain style of football. Stay consistent to that identity. By the way, takes pressure off your defense and preventing those track meets. But when you start talking about trying to outscore opponents, that's not the way they do it. They do it through Derrick Henry bludgeoning teams in the 4th quarter. Don't mess up the identity of who this football team is.
I don't think that 11 personnel necessarily messes up their identity, and you don't want to get in the trap of fighting yesterday's war. Them having this other receiver adds flexibility. Just because the reason why they lost last year was because they didn't stick to the run doesn't mean that when they come up with an opportunity this year that the best move isn't to spread it out, particularly with how well Lamar Jackson is playing. And also, if you put Derrick Henry in the backfield, you bring in another receiver, that brings in a DB, and that makes a linebacker leave. As a DB, you know what I don't want to see? I don't want to see Derrick Henry. You get all those tight ends in there, then you got big body guys against Derrick Henry. So
listen, I do love that. The problem is that don't fall in love with just the passing the game, because you and I know when 3 receivers get in and you start, all of y'all get the same way.
Why are you hitting on
this
wide
little
out,
side of the table, bro. They all get excited. Oh, look at this matchup. Oh, look at this matchup. You see that 250-pound grown man in the back? That's the matchup I want. I want that matchup.
You're not wrong. This isn't a move that will change the identity of the Baltimore Ravens.
That's what I'm hoping.
This is a luxury because they're a good team who had the opportunity to, again,
for cheap,
solidify their floor for cheap. Because when you get in those 3rd and 8 moments, 2 tight ends ain't going to do it. You need man beaters. You need guys who can move the sticks. And those track meets aren't things you get into. They're things you're forced into because your defense seems to can't stop a nosebleed.
I just want to know if Deontay's playing defense too.
That's where the track meet comes in.
I mean, he can't run fast.
Because they're outscoring opponents in the first 3 quarters, and then what happens in the 4th? That they can't hold on to leads. So I just want to know if Diontae is a 2-way player now.
That's the part of it that does actually make me think, if they find themselves in a situation where their defense has a bad day in the playoffs and they're capable of that, now all of a sudden they might need to be more explosive. You can't run the clock. If your closer is Derrick Henry, he can't close the game if the other team scores 30 points.
Criticism for the Ravens over the last couple of years has been they can't play from behind. You can only play from behind by throwing the football, and you need to make sure you have guys on the outside that can get open.
And that's my point about fighting yesterday's war. You want to build up this team to compensate for the problems that you had last year, which is not, we're not sure that's going to be your same issues in the playoffs this coming season.
That's fair.
So, I mean, I guess that's the question. Are the Ravens the favorite? Were they the favorites without him to win the AFC? And if not,
the Chiefs are still
the Chiefs remain the favorite?
Listen, and I hate to say it because he's saying, but defense wins championships.
Dang it, Jeff, why
That's
would
the
you say
reality
that?
of it. And Kansas City's defense is the best in the business right now. And that's what separates them from all the other contenders at this point.
I would say the Chiefs because they have been there. But the Ravens were the second favorite to me. And so Diontae doesn't move them, and they're still second.
The Bills got to be in that conversation, too. Like, listen, they're good teams.
And they added Amari, so it's a different,
Yes.
it's a different version
exactly
of them
right.
now.
Gonna get up pancakes in a minute, but first let's play a game of what if. Hey, Domonique, what if the Eagles lose to the Jaguars this weekend?
I mean, it's not. I won't even entertain that as a possibility. Like I've been hard on the Eagles for much of this season because of last year and early this season. But last week's game was really impressive. They have played a full offensive game, a complete game offensively. And as much as I love that, all their weapons are healthy. But the most important or impressive part was how they played defense against one of the best receivers in football. Like they manned up Jamar Chase, which allowed the rest of their defense to play well.
Kmart, have the Eagles answered the questions you had about them?
No.
No.
Wow.
I think because I look at the Eagles same way as I look at the Ravens. It's like, that is great. Whatever happens in the regular season, it's not enough. This is a team that was just in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. That's where you want to see this team. They're too talented to fizzle down the stretch.
All right, we'll see. Hawk, I'm coming to you next. What if the Cowboys lose to the Falcons on Sunday?
And you can put a padlock on the coffin because the nail has already been firmly placed in there. Look, and it's not so much about the record for the Dallas Cowboys. It's when you watch the football games, the way they're playing, there's no way points up. There is nobody coming to save them. They have too many issues offensively. They're rudimentary in their play calling. They are one-dimensional. Their offensive line and running game isn't there. And defensively, they can't stop anybody.
Jeff?
Ooh, it's ugly. I'm with Hawk here, man. Like, the expectations, they are going to lose to the Falcons. That's the facts. And you can't stop the run. Atlanta can run it. Atlanta likes play action with it. Can they stop that? Without turnovers, this team has no prayer of winning because they can't consistently move the ball down the field and score. I'm with Hawk on this one.
And then, Kmart, let me go to your home away from home, the AFC North. What if Mike Tomlin sticks with Russell Wilson as the Steelers' QB1 after they come back from their bye week? Then what?
Well, Greeny, this one's simple. They can still win the AFC North, like I told you guys in the preseason.
You did.
So,
You did. She picked the Steelers, and we all thought she was nuts. And they may not win it, but look, you
They
can't.
have a chance.
Look, they still have their schedule. The rest of the way is unbelievably challenging, including all of their division games. So anything could happen. But 6-2 to this point. Before I get to Hawk State, our coordinating producer John Fink, and we all know him. Fink, he's Fink. He brought up the question yesterday, is this Mike Tomlin's best coaching job? The job he's done to have this team at 6-2 with the quarterback situation that they've got, like, is it going to be this one? Is it going to be that one and all that?
I feel like this is a question every season. Like every year, Mike Tomlin outdoes himself. I will say the thing that I'm most impressed about this season from Mike Tomlin is he didn't fall into that we're sticking with the hot hand trap that so many foolish coaches fall into, where it's like, we're winning, I'm too scared to change anything.
Yeah.
And I was up here also saying, hey, you guys got to be too scared to change anything. And Mike Tomlin was like, hey, you know what I know? Football. Why don't y'all shut up and let me do my job? And this team is better now that he's made that change. It's a hard thing to do for a team that's winning to come off of their quarterback.
You know what's so important? Job security is so important in the NFL because it allows coaches to do things without fear of being fired.
Yeah.
How many coaches in the NFL would be willing to go 8 weeks into the season without naming a starting quarterback?
Right. Yeah.
Right? Because if it doesn't work, most of them are afraid they're going to get fired. But when you're a franchise that has only had 3 coaches since 1969,
Great point.
you empower them to actually do their job.
Can I just say, one of the reasons that I love Mike Tomlin is that he does not care what any of us think. But one of the reasons that the Steelers have been impressive is the fact that with Russell Wilson, that George Pickens connection, that to me was the key. Like, George Pickens has the talent to be a one and be their best star, right? But when targeting George Pickens, Russell Wilson, 13.2 yards per attempt. Justin Fields, 8.3 yards per attempt. That's not to knock on Justin, but the offense. We were talking about they got to be explosive. I didn't see this coming from Russ, and that's why Mike Tomlin was the head coach.
Hawk has that tape exactly. Go.
I have that tape. And with George Pickens, you saw Justin Fields trying to push it to him. But again, it wasn't with the outcomes that you're seeing from Russell Wilson, and everybody else got better. So in the last game Justin Fields started, here's a tape that when we looked at it, he had a reluctancy to push the ball down the field. This is single high coverage. Yeah. You have a corner that is open on third down, and he doesn't pull the trigger. He then brings it down for a first down, but again, not what they could be getting. Juxtaposition that with Russell Wilson, same look defensively. He's throwing this ball before Calvin Austin is even out of this break. Not only is he throwing the ball, look at the placement of the ball.
Yeah.
The angle of Austin changes twice, and that ball lands perfectly. Next, when you are pushing the ball down the field, Justin Fields likes to drive his passes. And when you're doing that, you have to be pinpoint accurate in those situations. Again, now watch Russell Wilson versus the Giants, where he puts enough air on the ball in a similar situation for Van Jefferson to adjust and make a play. And you've seen that with Washington, you've seen it with Pickens, you've seen it with Austin, Jefferson, Freiermuth, you name it. Whenever you push the ball down the field and you have a willingness to be aggressive with anticipation, it balances out your offensive game plan, which is why they've been much more productive under Wilson.
It's a really good tape, and I can't argue with it. I am the world's biggest Justin Fields fan and supporter. I've made it clear, but I can't argue. I mean, the tapes like that and the numbers and the tape doesn't lie.